Hey folks, hope you're doing well out there. Welcome back to Integrative Psychonautics. In today's video, I wanted to address a really light, cheerful topic, which is existential overwhelm. Massive, deep fear about what's going on in the world, what's going on in your life when you have big problems that are freaking you out and stressing you out. What the hell do you do? Let's talk about it. Okay, so as I'm prone to do here, I want to just give you a little bit of context on why I'm talking about this, and then we'll kind of get into it. And really, this is going to be a little more of an off-the-cuff solution today. I do have an answer to this question for you, but it's not going to be a real detailed step-by-step kind of thing. It's more of a broad principle. But to give you the context here really quick. So I'm filming this video early January 2024. I can't believe it's a new year already. I just went and spent the holiday with my folks, which generally is, like I said in another video recently, generally a positive thing for me. But this time around was actually a bit of a heavy experience, brought up a bit for me. And it got me really thinking about this next year, 2024. And the more I look at just kind of the tone of the Christmas season this year, when I look at the tone of where society's at, when I look at the tone of what I see on social media, what's going on in the news, what's going on geopolitically, and of course the fact that 2024 is an election year, and if you haven't noticed yet, election years tend to be very tumultuous with lots of drama and lots of political shenanigans and stuff being brought up. And I think, it's really reasonable to look at 2024 and be very concerned about real big upheavals on the horizon here, right? So I was kind of just wrapping my head around all of this and really letting that register inside of me that, these are big times. These are big, profound, historic times. And there are a lot of people out there right now who are struggling already, have been struggling for years. And we're about to go into probably a harder year than we've been through in quite a while. And what can I say? What do people need to know in order to be able to deal with big challenges, right? That's the question here. So I'd like to offer you a thought on that, an idea, and hopefully it'll be useful to you. Hopefully it'll be helpful, and I want to kind of stimulate some thought for you around this. So let me share about that. Okay, so here's my suggestion for dealing with existential overwhelm. And by the way, let me be clear that I went through a few moments of existential overwhelm recently over this Christmas trip, and I certainly have dealt with that feeling, that kind of big, overwhelming stress a lot in my life. Okay. So this is a feeling I'm very familiar with. So please don't mistake this advice as just being, some random dude on the internet, just trying to keep it positive here, or me being dismissive and trying to minimize whatever you're going through, because I get it. There's a lot of people going through a lot of real stuff right now. Okay, so my heart is here in this conversation. My head is here in this conversation. I'm really cognizant of what people are dealing with. Here's my suggestion. My question, my idea here is that in general, the big picture of dealing with problems, let's say, is that we need to be developing resources and resource experiences that are as big as our problems. Right? So the bigger the problem, the bigger the need for a resource that you can call upon that kind of offsets or counteracts the problem, right? So this is generally a truism in life, and it's certainly a truism when it comes to healing and growth and personal development and therapeutic work and stuff like that. We need to have developed and have access to resources to balance out the problems. So problems need resources, essentially. And that's true in all kinds of, from the most practical to the most esoteric. That's true. Okay. Now, so the first question is, if you're dealing with big problems and big existential overwhelm, have you worked at and have you developed equally big access to resources, right? Now, let me clarify what I mean by resources, right? Because I realize that's a bit of an ambiguous term, and I'll probably do a video at some point about kind of the obnoxious tendency in the therapy world to use these kind of like really like vague, fluffy, hard to define terms for ideas. So I try not to do that, and I do think it's annoying. So my apologies if you find that annoying too. What I mean by resource. Okay, so resource is anything that essentially makes you feel good, empowers you, gives you new options, gives you new abilities, expands your capacities, helps you feel more connected, etc., right? So in a practical sense, sure, resources could be physical items, money, that kind of a thing, right? Or having the stuff you need, right? But that's not really what I mean when I'm saying resources. What I'm saying in this case, in terms of big resources, is big mindsets, big positive belief systems, big positive spiritual type experiences or transcendent, transpersonal experiences. Big understandings, right? Big clarity, big connection to wisdom that keeps you aligned and full of hope and well-being and strength and possibility consciousness and joy and connection to life and the profound beauty of life. Big, powerful, positive mindsets, emotions, states, experiences, memories, right? Now, because some of us, lean spiritual, some of us don't, because some of us, we're all kind of organized differently. Some of us are more focused about emotion. Some of us, it's more a cognitive, mental thing. What the resource is going to be for you, I don't know, right? But I would encourage you to consider, have you ever had big positive life experiences that you can draw upon, whether that is happy memories, whether that is, having studied Buddhism for a period of time and you've integrated some of those concepts like compassion or like equanimity or like, mindfulness or etc., these kinds of things. Or have you had a profound mystical experience meditating around psychedelics that has really delivered you a sense that there's a deeper layer of reality and it is positive and beautiful and transcendent? Have you had an experience of feeling deeply connected to your vision for your life and your core and your purpose? Have you had an experience of feeling deeply connected to all of humanity and kind of the global beating heart of your fellow human beings, right? There are a lot of different flavors of resource. But the first question I want to offer you here is, do you have that? Have you had that? Have you had a glimpse of that or a taste of that? And if you haven't, then, the first thing I would do is I would pursue that. I would doggedly pursue that in these times where things get big and heavy and stressful. Whether that is, big fun, big play for you, right? Big stress relief, whether that is just going to a Vipassana retreat and meditating for 10 days and really getting that sense of stillness and clarity and well-being, whether that is going to a psychedelic retreat and really tapping into your sense of spirituality, or maybe even it's something much simpler, just like a routine you have or a practice you have that aligns you and brings you back to yourself. Whatever that is, I would encourage you to lean into that and expand that, cultivate that, make that vivid, make that rich, right? Because this is the counterbalance to whatever the big existential concerns and fears are, okay? Now, with that, the other question is not, have you had these experiences, but are you accessing them now? And, I'll be real with you guys. This is something I've been guilty of myself a lot, especially over the last few years as I've been kind of grinding on the business here and focused on other things. I've been doing less of my spiritual practices and less of my meditation, less of really spending time basking in like the profound, exquisite meaning that I've cultivated from all my years of studying all the stuff and psychedelics and all that stuff, right? So I too am guilty of this. And so this question is for me too. Are you spending time time? Are you prioritizing? Are you accessing it? It's one thing to know that that's there. It's one thing to know there's a big positive. It's one thing to remember something and kind of it puts a smile on your face, but it's a passive memory that's somewhere in the background of your life. It's another thing to spend 10 minutes sitting and basking in that memory and letting it fill every cell of your body with a sense of peace and well-being and goodness. Okay? Totally different thing. If you've never built that kind of practice, if you're someone who leans really logical and rational and you're skeptical about spirituality and you're skeptical about meditation, I would say whatever it is for you, but I would encourage you honestly to challenge that bias and, log some hours exploring this territory for yourself. But also if that's, distasteful for you, not agreeable to you, I would encourage you to find something big and profoundly meaningful that inoculates you against big worry, big stress. Okay. Because I think, this is just an important mindset in life in general. This is a major tool for healing, right? So one of the major ways we use psychedelics for healing is we develop these big, powerful resource states. You have these moments of transcendent bliss and pure love and oneness with the universe and feeling connected to all of life and feeling hope, right? And then that becomes something that you can literally use to unwire the neural paths of all the fear and the sadness and the grief and the worry and all the negatives, right? All the stuff that we would classify as flavors of mental illness or stress or dysfunction or low functioning or problem or however you want to think of that. So yeah, lean into that, develop that, access that regularly, on top of all the other stuff I've been talking about recently, like lifestyle stuff in terms of diet and exercise and sleep hygiene and getting that all really good, making sure that's all good on top of, having really good connection and good safe relationships with people where you can really be yourself and feel connected and kind of feel like nourished interpersonally, right? I think that's really important too. In fact, I know that's important. There's science that bears out that that's really important. On top of that, spending some time feeling deeply resourced internally, I think is going to be so super valuable and really is the major, right? The major thing that we need if we're just kind of like, if what's loud in our experience is existential overwhelm. One of the other ways I go, that I've learned from my studies of different trauma therapy modalities, when I'm working with someone is if they are in big overwhelm, I will go into using a certain kind of relational work to help them feel safe and connected relationally. So another way you can go if, having meditating or having a spiritual experience or, whatever, all of that doesn't work for you, go find some really good connection with other people. And that's another way to start to help your nervous system decrease the amount of stress and start to digest and balance out that sense of stress, right? When we tend to see ourselves as alone and stuck with problems that are much bigger than us, that is usually a recipe for overwhelm. So don't do that, essentially, if you can help it. There are, other answers, but quite frankly, I think they all pale in comparison to simply leaning in to creating more resource experiences in your life. So food for thought for you. Are you doing this? Have you been doing this? Have you ever really had big positive resource experiences? And are you accessing them regularly? I know I will be this year. 2024, like I said, I'm really concerned is probably going to be a really difficult year, certainly here in the US, if not globally, if for no other reason, besides the fact that we've got 2 wars going on right now, on top of that, it's an election year, and I think it's going to be a really contentious election, right? And so I would encourage all of you out there to really prioritize your sense of and it can seem weird. Let's be honest. It can seem a little weird to there's craziness going on in the world. There's all these reasons to be afraid. There's financial worries, XYZ, to set time aside and go meditate and sit and bask in gentle, soft, heart opening, brain melting bliss, right? That can seem a little weird, but I really think it really puts everything else in perspective. The last thing I'm tempted to say about that, since I'm brain dumping here with you guys, is, my time logged with real serious spiritual practices and being around highly cultivated spiritual people. It's uncanny the amount of capacity that some of the spiritual teachers I've been around have to deal with incredibly stressful situations and literally a room full of people who want their attention and time and are suffering and all this stuff going on around them constantly. And they're just profoundly centered and clear and present and at ease and at peace and filled with emotional well-being and emotional connection, regardless of what's going on around them. So point being, I know that that's possible. And I think that the more we lean into that and explore that, the more we can discover that for ourselves. So I'd encourage you to do the same. So for whatever that's worth, I hope that's useful to you. It really sucks to go through existential overwhelm. I know. We all need support in that place. And the answer isn't a cognitive reframe necessarily. It isn't some therapy hack. It isn't some NLP trick. It isn't to hypnotize yourself out of it. It's really to feel deeply, profoundly connected to that which brings you peace and empowerment and possibilities and options and love and joy and aliveness and presence and groundedness and safety. So seek that in whatever way you can. Much love to you. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.